What's up, everybody? Let's get back to building our masterpiece of a game. And I got a lot of exciting ideas to cover on this one. So let's see how much we can get done. But before we do that, let's recap what we covered in the last one. And I got Gemini pulled up. I'll make this real quick. So stick around for a bit as we recap. It was basically just a single prompt episode. We fixed these two problems we were having, our orientation lock. So we fixed our game loading in portrait mode, and now it is locked to landscape. And we fixed our frame rate cap of 30. And the other thing we did was we went back a little bit and updated our level progression so that our player gets frozen when you finish the level, and it can no longer move around once you touch the trophy at the end, right? And we deviated a little bit from the script Gemini provided because we already did a bunch of stuff that Gemini didn't know about. So that is pretty much where we left off. One thing I forgot to do in the last episode, if you remember, was share one prompt that we had typed out. So I saved it and I'm going to type it in now and send it. And that is this question right here. What is the difference between awake and start? And just so you know, those are in our scripts. All right, so awake function here, and some have start function, some have both. So difference between awake and start, let's see the response here. Comes down to the exact order in which Unity initializes objects behind the scenes. While both are used to set up your scripts before the game actually begins running its frame by frame loop, they serve two distinct purposes to prevent scripts from crashing into each other. So the awake method, think of the awake as the setup phase. It is the very first thing that happens when a game object is created or a scene loads. Timing, it runs immediately before any start method. Methods are called, so I guess it can have multiple start methods. Start methods are called anywhere in the game. Never mind. One script I don't think can have multiple start methods. That doesn't make any sense. Execution rule. It runs even if the specific script components is disabled as long as the game object itself is active. Okay, cool. And best use cases getting your own house in order. You use awake to set up references to components attached to the same object. For example, rigid body or RB equals get component rigid body to D, or to initialize private variables. Now, the start function, think of start as the communication phase. Timing, it runs after all awake methods have finished across every object in the scene. Wow, okay, cool. And exactly one frame before the first update happens. Execution rule, it only runs if the script component is explicitly enabled. Okay, and best use case, talking to other objects because start waits for awake to finish. You can safely use start to find the player, talk to the game manager, or grab data from other scripts, knowing with 100% certainty that those other scripts have already finished their own awake setups. Okay, so awake comes before start. If anything, you should take away from all this technical jargon, it is that awake function comes before start function. Okay, rule of thumb, if you're grabbing a component of the same game object on the same game object, do it in awake. If you're talking to a different game object, do it in start. Cool. So, as you remember from the last one, last episode I did, if you haven't watched that, that's fine too. Um, we now have the project up and running. We built it for Android and I tested it out on my phone. And while I was testing it out, I noticed a few different problems that we should be tackling. The first thing is why I got these couple of images pulled up. So as you can see, we first things first, the placement of all the buttons and texts on the screen do not really match what we have here. on the game. If we run it in Unity, you can see there's space under these buttons here. There's space above these texts here. But when I run it on my phone, the texts are basically getting cut off at the top. The buttons are probably getting cut off at the bottom, but they're like at the very bottom, touching them. The other thing you will notice is when we get to double-digit points, that looks like this. So it gets completely cut off the points text. So should be a very simple fix here. Just need to increase the width. And then for this problem, and I got my notepad out here. So let's just type out the things we want to tackle in this episode. So first things first, fix the points getting cut off, or fix the point double digit points getting into two lines, right? So this is the first thing I want to fix. Then the second thing is going to be um, fix the points and buttons getting cut off. And third thing, I hope you can see the text here. I know it is kind of small. Should I just copy to Visual Studio maybe so that we have our agenda and it doesn't look so tiny, right? So fix the double digit points getting into two lines, fix the points and buttons, and then the third thing I hope we have time to tackle here. So the third thing is gonna be the point doesn't update on level 1. And this is something I noticed while playing it on my phone. I was like, why is the point not updating on my phone? So turns out it's not updating on PC either. But level 2 works fine. Just to give you guys a quick demo. Hopefully it's not blasting your ears. Choose the volume there. But yeah, level 2 works fine, so add that in. Fix points not updating on level 1. So double digit point problem should be very simple fix. If I should probably do it in scene 2 because we got a working point system here. So all we need to do for this one is just increase the width of this thing. So mobile UI canvas, is that where we have it? No, I don't think so. Where would it be? Points. Mobile controls, not what we want. UI manager, maybe. Yep, score text, level text. So score text should be, yeah, see how the edges are super close. Just make this wider. So width, I'll do 400. Just have a lot of room around both sides and should be good. But this one, 320. I'll make this. This one should be fine, right? Unless we go like to more than 100 levels. So, I'll maybe do 350. See, still looks pretty good. Um, so this I am hoping will fix our problem with text getting into two lines. Even if we have hundreds of coins, or in the future we may have some. We may add some incredible power up that gives you 1,000-point boost, right? So cool. So that one's checked off. Done. I'll do done. Fix the points and buttons getting cut off. So points and buttons. So for this one, I've thought of a solution, and that solution is, think what is our aspect ratio for this game? I think it's 16:9, right? So the resolution we were working with Where do we check that again? I think it's in the canvas we have. Mobile UI canvas. Width is 1920. Height is 960. Why is the height 960? Oh no, looking at the wrong thing, guys. Sorry. So this should be the reference resolution we're focusing on. So we're building things out for devices that have a 1920 times 1080, or the aspect ratio for this I think is 16 is to 8, I think. Um, anyway, uh, close. It's 16 is to 9. Okay, 1920 times 1080. So that to fix that, we should blur out. So for wider devices, I want to blur out anything beyond that aspect ratio on the sides, and for taller devices, we want to blur out the top so that we don't run into this problem with for wider screen. This screen on the Pixel 10 that I have exceeds the 16 is to 9 aspect ratio in terms of the width. I think it's higher, so it would probably be, I don't know. I don't even want to guess. Let's Google that real quick. So yeah, see, instead of 16 is to 9, it's 20 is to 9, which is why the screen is super wide and we're getting things cut off at the top and then buttons at the bottom. So let's fix that. And let's go to Gemini. So let's let them know. Um, I noticed a problem. Not sure if I should call it a bug or devices not matching the 16 is to 9 aspect ratio. The buttons are getting cut off at the, and maybe also and the text are getting cut off at the top and bottom as the game screen is wider than it's meant to be. I'm sure devices that would be taller will have different problems um, with how things appear as well. Um, so to fix this, I was thinking blur out the um, anything that exceeds the 16 is to 9 resolution, or the parts of the edges that exceed the 16 to 9 resolution. And hopefully this makes enough sense, right? So let's try it out. Try to be decently articulate here. Hopefully it can make sense out of what I just asked. So, all right, so it is absolutely fair to call that a bug. Handling the wild west of mobile device aspect ratios from ultra-wide phones to squarish tablets is one of the biggest hurdles in game development for mobiles. While creating a blurred letterboxing effect is technically possible using multiple cameras and ooh, that sounds like a nightmare. I highly recommend against it. It's a massive performance drain on mobile hardware, and more importantly, it is a band-aid that doesn't fix the underlying UI architecture. The good news is that Unity's UI system is built specifically to handle this without any hacks or blurs. Ah, cool. Just need to leverage the canvas scaler and UI anchors. Here's how to properly lock your UI so it never gets cut off no matter the screen size. So fix this, okay, we're gonna follow these steps. Fix the canvas scaler. And then the real fix is UI anchoring, and then we're gonna repeat it for UI manager. All right, so follow along. Going back to Unity, so fix the canvas scaler, select your mobile UI canvas prefab, have it here. In the inspector, look at the canvas scaler component. Canvas scaler is right here. Ensure the UI scale mode is set to scale with screen size, which it is. Um, ensure your reference resolution also is 1920 times 1080 for X and Y. And look at the screen match mode. It should be set to match with the height. It is. And then change the match slider value to 0.5. Match slider value. Match slider. Okay, so it should be 0.5. Interesting. What did it do? Because you see the positioning of the buttons just changed. Let me try it again. 0 and do 0.5. It just moves the buttons closer to the center, it looks like. So just a tad bit, right? So, and the other thing I want to do is increase the height of the jump button. So let's add that in. Sorry about the scatterbrain, but increase height of the jump button. And the reason is because I tried clicking the button, but a bunch of times I missed. Left and right is no problem, but the jump, I was tapping right around here. So I'll just increase the height there. But anyway, don't want to deviate too much. Let's go back into fixing um, the aspect ratio. All right, so setting this to, okay, so what does setting this to 0.5 do? Setting this to 0.5 tells Unity, and I'm no genius, I'm just reading. Setting this to 0.5 tells Unity to compromise evenly between extreme widths and extreme heights rather than aggressively scaling one and clipping the other. Okay, so interesting. Compromise evenly between extreme widths and extreme heights rather than aggressively scaling one and clipping the other. Makes sense. Okay, cool. I'll trust it. Step 2, the real fix, UI anchoring. This is the magic bullet. Anchoring tells the UI element no matter how much the screen stretches or squishes, always stay exactly this far away from this specific corner. If your buttons are getting cut off because they are currently anchored to the dead center of your screen, it is because they're currently anchored to the dead center of the screen. So when the screen shrinks relatively, they bleed off the edges. So let's fix it. So step 1, open your mobile UI canvas prefab. Select your jump button. So let's see, select jump button in the inspector. While we're at it, let's just increase the height that we were just talking about. So I'll do 150 instead of 150. I'll do maybe 200 for the height. Okay, and positioning I'll increase, so 150 to 200. So just increase this by 50. Negative 369 plus 50 would be negative 319. So, right. Does it match? It kind of looks higher than the other ones, but anyway. 369 plus 50 would be 319, right? Let me pull up my calculator real quick. Should be fairly straightforward math there, but negative 369 plus 50. Yeah. So anyway, 319. But I think we may have to add like half of it instead of the full negative 369 plus 25, so 344. Let's try that. Negative 344. Okay, yeah, looks much better. Um, where are we at? All right, back to the instructions. Okay, so select the jump button. That's where we left off. In the inspector, click the rect transform anchor box, the square target icon at the top left. Okay, this one. Yeah, hold shift plus alt or shift. Okay, so for Windows shift and alt, I'm holding both at the same time. So again, released both shift and alt, holding both at the same time. And click the bottom right option. This snaps the button's pivot and position strict to the bottom right corner of the phone. So this guy, I guess, bottom right corner of the phone. I don't want it to be all the way to the bottom right. Okay, but anyway, use the move tool or position X and position Y in the inspector to nudge the button slightly up and left so it's not flushed against the glass, giving it a nice margin. So cool, we can do that. Um, Position Y and position X. Position X, maybe what happens if I do 50? Nah, it has to be negative because we're moving it to the left. So remember geometry, guys. So this should probably be negative 50. Nah, not 5.9. Negative, I'll do negative 100 maybe. Oh no, not 1,000. Nah, I like 80. I'll take a gamble on. You know what? Negative 100 doesn't really look that bad, honestly. Should I just leave it? 80, 100? No, come on. 100. Nah, negative 100. There we go. Okay, and then position Y, we want it to go up, so it should be a positive value. I'll do positive, maybe 100. Hmm. What do you think? What do you think? By the way, did the width decrease by any chance? Nah, looks like it didn't decrease. Anyway, repeat this for your left and right movement buttons, but use the bottom left anchor. So I can do that. Hopefully we can select both at the same time. Open up this Rex transform anchor box, Shift and Alt, and should be this one. Ooh, okay, so both are now at the bottom right. And let's fix it. So we want things to move to the right. So maybe you start with the right button, and I'll do 500 just for now. So jump button was negative 100, so left button should be positive 100. Okay, and then position Y for the jump was what? 100, so should be the same as well on these two. And then I'll move this one closer to the left button. 300 maybe? Nah, too close. 400? Nah, yeah, I could deal with that. Maybe even 420. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. All right, so repeat this for the bottom left. Done. Step 3 is repeat for the UI manager. UI manager. So open the UI manager prefab. By the way, we're working on the individual items and not the prefabs. So open the UI manager, select your level text. Okay, and anchor box, and should be top left this time. So there it is. Um, I'm thinking if I should just leave it, probably not. Have some margin. Position X, maybe 100. Not too much. Too much. Is it too much? Kind of seems like too much. I'll do 80. And position Y should be negative 80. Too high. Too low. Negative 30. Negative 20. How about that? Cool. And maybe also the score text. Shift and Alt, center, top, and position X. Position X should be fine at 0. Position Y should be negative 20. Game over panel should be fine. All right. Slight margin. All done, all done, all done. Cool. So hopefully this looks good on the phone, and we'll test it out, and I'll show you the results hopefully at some point. But the one thing left to do is apply the overrides to the master prefab. So select the override and apply all. And same thing for this one. Overrides and apply all. All right. Cool. So We fixed the double digit getting into two lines problem. Fix the points and buttons getting cut off. So this is what we just did. Done. Fix points not updating on level 1. And this one's also done. Increase the height of the jump button. So we're left with this one. Fix points not updating on level 1. So what could be the problem there? What is updating our... What is updating our... I would think coin pickup is what's updating our score, right? So score... Game manager.instance.add score. So game manager is where what keeps track of the score. So game manager, let's open it up. Score tracking, score is 0. All right. And so does our game manager object not have this script set in level 1? Game manager script. So this is level 2. Save this. And go back to scenes level 1. And see, where's our game manager here? Here it is. Score track. Ah, okay. So the score text doesn't have anything set there, so that's the problem. Instead of me dragging it there, should I be dragging it there or should I try to reset it? So I'm back in level 2. Find our game manager score text, and are there overrides here? No, there isn't. All right, there isn't any overrides here that is not in the master prefab. So let's go to level 1 and go find our game manager and overrides. Okay, can we, if I reset this, what is going to happen? Let's go to the master prefab and take a look at if the game manager... Oh, nothing's set here. So score text. Do we have to manually keep doing this every time? That doesn't sound very good, right? So score text. Anyway, let me just do it for here. But that doesn't sound like it's a good idea, right? So I'll have to ask Gemini, but you understand the problem. I don't understand why the score text is not getting set here, but kind of do because it's not in the master prefab, so nothing's here. Score text and UI manager. So for UI manager, I could probably drag and drop this thing here. For score text, how could I? Should I make the score text a prefab as well? Okay, maybe that is probably the solution, right? But let's ask Gemini that question. So just noticed level 1 score was not updating. Um, turns out the prefab doesn't have uh, or didn't. Am I in French keyboard? I hate this. Okay, sorry. Didn't have a UI manager and a score text. No. UI manager or score text attached. I added the UI manager in there from our prefabs, but realized that we do not have score text prefab as it's a child of the UI manager. Should I turn the score text into a prefab as well? Let's see if this is the proper way or the recommended way. Okay, so we should definitely not turn the score into its own prefab since you already moved score text to be a child of your UI manager. It is officially part of the UI manager prefab package. Making a prefab out of a child object creates another prefab just to fix a missing reference will create a tangled, unnecessary mess in your project architecture. The reason the slot is empty in level 1 is due to a strict Unity rule. Prefab assets in your project folder cannot permanently save links to objects that live inside a specific scene. Interesting. Because your score text only physically exists when the UI manager is dropped into a level. Okay. The game manager master prefab in your folder cannot permanently memorize where that text is. You simply have to tell the game manager where to look on a level by level basis. Okay, so it wants me to do this on a level by level basis. Okay, so in that case, should I go ahead and okay, let me see if it already covered this. Click and drag. Okay, so that this would be on the level basis. Drag from the hierarchy to the empty score text slot. Crucial step: do not go to the overrides menu and hit apply all for this change. Unity cannot apply scene references to project files anyway. Leaving it alone keeps the link. Okay, so it didn't cover. So in that case, should I go ahead and also remove the, what is it, UI manager? UI manager from the prefab. I just added prefab from the game manager prefab. So you know what I'm asking is, should I remove this prefab that I just dropped here from our game manager? Game manager here. Okay, so and add that on a level by level basis as well. Okay, so yeah, seems like I should. Okay, it just seems like work I don't want to do. I wish we could just have a prefab that knows, like, hey, this is the UI manager, this is the score text. It's having to do it on a level by level, but I guess some things cannot be automated. Just identify one of the most common traps in Unity architecture, often referred as the blueprint trap. Here's exactly why your instinct is correct. What is the blueprint trap? When you link a prefab from your project folder, like UI Manager, into another prefab in your project folder, like your game manager, you're linking two blueprints together, not the actual object sitting in the game. Okay, that's why it's blueprint trap. When you leave it set up this way, when the player dies, the active game manager in level 1 will desperately try to trigger the game over screen on the UI manager blueprint sitting in your project files rather than the UI manager that is actually rendering on the player screen. Interesting. Okay, cool. This usually results in the game over screen simply not appearing or Unity throwing an error in your console. So if you didn't understand that, we could probably try to, nah, I was gonna say take it on a spin and test it out, but you know what? I have to make some manual changes there. So let's not do that. So, and by manual changes, I mean I'd have to go in there um, and then remove this because this is actually linked to this guy here instead of the master prefab. Um, we could do that, reset. No, never mind. Never mind. Making things more complicated than it needs to be. I'll make things simple. Okay, score text, I'll drag and drop this guy here. So prefab, I'll go back to our prefab, game manager, and I'll just remove this guy. Where is that remove? None. Yeah, cool. None. Set it to none. And hopefully level 1 score now updates. Let's see. Ooh, of course. I've become an expert at this. I like this that you are still able to move the, at least turn the player even though you cannot physically move it. So I think I'll keep that as a feature. Just like we kept our moonwalking frog as a feature, right? So you can still like see the player move a little. So one last thing I wanted to tackle on this one. It's gonna be interesting one, very exciting one, and that is how much work would it be? First of all, I should probably let Gemini know that. You know what? I'll move on. How much work would it take to display the double jump power up when it's power up carry sprite on the top right when it's active? And if it's too much work, I'll skip it. But if it's something simple, I'll tackle it. Okay, so I think that's going to take only 5 minutes. Interesting. Okay, that wants me to add the image, hide it by default, and write a single line of code to unhide it when the player grabs the power up. Okay, okay. 2 steps and 3 steps. 3-step process. Okay. Let's see how long it actually takes. Okay, it said 5 minutes, so I will take a chance and see how quickly we can run through these steps. So step 1 is create the UI image. Open your UI manager. Let me go to level 2. Let me go to level 2. So save level 1. Go to scenes, then level 2, and open the UI manager prefab. Wants me to open the prefab. Okay, cool. Prefabs, UI manager. Right click inside the prefab and select UI dash image. Right click on the prefab and select UI image. Okay, here. And rename it to double jump icon. Right. In the inspector, find the image component and drag your cherry sprite into the source image. So find that art. Let's see where it is. Would it be in items, fruits, cherry? Where's cherry? Cherries. It's a double jump icon. Sprite component, source image. Image component, yeah. So drag your cherry into the source image. So which one should I do? Probably just the beginning one. All done. Da, da, da. Click on the rect transform. Oh, did I? I think this is all. Yeah, those are all anchored. So click the rect transform anchor box. Hold Shift and Alt and position it to the top right. Cool. Exactly where we want it to be. Position X. should be probably a bit away from the corner, so maybe negative 100. Too much. Negative, I'll do negative 60. Oh, 600 is too much, definitely. But even negative 60 feels too much. I'll do negative 40. Okay. Position Y, negative 40 again, maybe. Maybe. Negative 20. 20 seems better. Okay. And step 5 at the very top of the inspector. Uncheck the box next to the object name. Top of the inspector. Uncheck the box next to the object name. This guy right here. Okay. This will make the cherry invisible by default when the level starts. Now let's move on to step 2 would be scripts. Open the UI manager script and add a reference and a toggle method. So your existing references, and this is going to be the code. Okay, so I'll just read through this real quick and see what the changes that need to be made are. So, all right, level text is here. Header power ups. So just add this guy in. Okay. This is where we're going to drag the image, and we're going to add a new method under maybe load main menu. Add this new method. I need the comment to enable double jump icon. So good to have it in there. Save the script. Go back to Unity. Okay, all compiled, and now select your prefab. Should have the script here, double jump icon. Just drag and drop it here. All done. And step 3 is trigger the icon. Finally, go to the script that handles your player picking up the cherry. This should be the double jump script. Wherever you have the code that actually gives the player the double jump ability, simply add the call to your UI manager to turn on the image. Okay, cool. Game manager. Don't have game manager here. UI manager? No. So this is what I'm trying to do. Depending on how your scripts are connected, if your game manager already has a reference to the UI manager, you might add a pass-through method in your game manager like this line right here. That's all it takes. But can I just drop that in there? I don't think I can, but we can try. Wherever it gives the player the double jump ability, so that would be as double jump unlocked, pick up sound. That'd be right around here, right? So, um, right after you play that sound, we're gonna enable double jump icon. That is this method right here, and I just saved it. Let's see if it actually works. Game manager is inaccessible due to its protection level, so I don't need this. Get out of here. How are we referencing game manager? Game manager. Oh, what is that error there? We're getting game manager.ui manager is inaccessible due to its protection level. Okay. So this is not working because game manager UI manager is private. Um, so do I need to update that inside the game manager then, depending on? Okay, okay. My game manager does have a reference to UI manager, I think, right? So UI manager is here. Okay. You know what I'm gonna do? Instead of spending so much brain power trying to debug this, I'll copy and paste like a vibe coder, right? So game manager, I'll copy game manager. See, it's never 5 minutes. Never is. Oh my God, could you paste? Are you freezing? Okay, game manager, UI manager, UI manager, and finally the double jump power up script. I hate it. I hate how slow this is. All right, finally the power up script. Okay, double jump power up. And now finally, um, throwing an error because should I just copy the error code also? This is how you debug the vibe coders. You just copy everything in and paste. And I assume it might create a public method in Game Manager that does the. Yeah, it's private. So, yep. Just read through it quickly. I'm not reading it. Add a pass-through method. Yeah, that's what I thought it was gonna do. And update the power up script. Yep, that was what I was gonna do anyway. But yeah, so, it's good to know that. Good to know that Gemini would have done what I was gonna do. So okay, I'll just leave this comment in here. New pass-through method, and then in the double jump power up, we're gonna do the game manager dot enable double jump UI. We'll save this, and hopefully that works. Let's clear. Maybe I did it wrong. Dot instance is what I'm missing. Ooh. All right, and it compiled and the error went away. So let's see if it works. UI manager. Okay. Nice, look at that. Looks pretty good. And I'll show you what it looks like on my phone now in the next episode, okay? Thanks for tuning in.